Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay, it is a Friday. Got a weekend coming up. That's usually the case with a Friday. Today's guest, including Shane Malloy, who's going to join us from the draft floor.
Oh, nice.
In Montreal, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Shane coming up in a matter of moments. Enjoy no-hassle 3-day returns and 30-day exchanges on all used vehicles, so you can make sure what you get is just right for you in one of the largest inventories in BC. Don't just love your car, love buying it at LangleyChrysler.com. To Montreal we go from Hockey Prospect Radio, NHL Network Radio, and Sirius XM, the author of The Art of Scouting. He's at the draft as we speak. Shane Malloy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and excuse the noise. It's pretty loud on the draft floor here, and I'm just to the right of the stage, so they're still beginning to announce the 7th round.
Oh, fabulous, Shane. It looks fantastic, by the way. Your thoughts on what the Canucks did in the first round yesterday and taking Jonathan Lekkerimäki?
Well, I think he's the best sniper in this draft class, and some of the things I really appreciate, and he's not just a sniper. One of the things I really appreciate about what he's developed into this year is more of a dual threat. So his playmaking really evolved from that standpoint. I like his competitiveness. I think that's a little bit underrated. He has excellent skill sets in terms of his puck skills. So I think for the Vancouver Canucks, I think the fans should be really excited about this player. And once he gains a little bit of mass and strength to his frame, I think his skating is going to improve as well. His skating is okay, but once he gets a little bit stronger, you pack about 15 pounds of muscle on that kid. I think he's going to be a dynamic player for a long time for the Vancouver Canucks. So overall, I had him 2 spots higher than when the Canucks took him. So he was right in my wheelhouse at the same spot.
Most draft gurus, most draft experts like yourself had him higher. Craig Button had him as high as 8th going to Detroit. Is that why he dropped the skating and the size, Shane?
Well, I mean, he is 5'11", so he's not small. Yeah. He's a little undersized, and he's going to have to – we sometimes forget they're 17, 18-year-old kids, and they still have to develop into a man, and that's part of it. But I don't look at him what he is today. I look at him what he's going to be when he's 23. And I think once he gets a little bit more power and pop in that stride, that would be able to help create more time and space for himself. He's going to be a dangerous goal scorer, but he can work with playmakers and play off them as well. I just thought overall between he split between the Swedish Elite League and the J20 and Djurgården. And I think overall he started to develop and understand that he could just be a shooter. He had to be able to drive defenders back with some playmaking ability and create time and space using a give and go. So I think that was a very good pick for the Vancouver Canucks. And I don't want to say he fell to them, but he fell a couple more spots than perhaps maybe the regular people out on the floor that I talked to thought. So good for the Vancouver Canucks, and they deserved a little bit of luck on the draft floor.
Shane, the fight for Wright seems like a million years ago. Now, can you understand why the Habs went for Juraj Slafkovsky over Shane Wright at number 1?
Sure, he's a power forward. How many power forwards are actually in the NHL? It's a rare and dying breed. So when you're 6'4" and 225 pounds and you have that skill set, you can be able to control down low. You can be able to make plays. He's a power playmaker, but can score goals as well. I understand why they coveted him a little bit more than Shane Wright. I had them in terms of skill set at equal value, but Shane Wright is a centerman, and overall centers have a little bit more value because they play in the middle of the ice and have more defensive responsibilities. So I get it. But after we interviewed him on NHL Network Radio, and he looked pretty determined about to prove himself right, that, and no pun intended, that when he goes to Seattle, boy, he gave the Montreal table a death stare when he got up onto the stage. So that's going to be a motivated individual. I'm curious to see what happens when he gets into his prime years and he goes into Montreal and tries to prove them wrong.
Shane, the most Googled name in Vancouver today, Elias Patterson. Not the one from 5 years ago.
Not this one, but the other one.
Please tell me, you know this, Patterson, the defenseman, and please give us the goods on what kind of player the Canucks got in round 3.
Well, I really think he's a defensive defenseman who will be most likely targeted to play on your third pairing. What I really like about him is he has very good mobility, and he competes hard. He actually has a mean streak in him. So he could be one of those defensive defensemen to make life hard for you in front of the net. He's going to be able to kill penalties. He'll move pucks efficiently. He's not going to be somebody that will ever play in your power play, but a smart, mobile, tough defenseman. And that's the kind of defenseman I think this organization needs. They need to add that into their farm system. And I had him much higher than 80.
Wow.
A lot, but I had him into that, in the mid 60s on my list. I thought he was a guy that you could take in the second round, and they got him in the third. So I think they got some value there.
Shane, we were talking with Don about one of the teams that did a lot of good work in that draft in the first round was Chicago. They got 3 picks. They were wheeling and dealing. They've set the template for a rebuild. Talk about what the Hawks did.
Well, that's called scorched earth.
Yeah.
They did very similar things to what the Arizona Coyotes do. And when you do that, sure, it looks great on the draft table, but boy, did they ever pull a lot of talent out of their organization, to bring at, and obviously, Kirby Dach. And then it just sets the stage for Evander Kane and Jonathan Taves no longer being that organization. Because honestly, why would they want to stay? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not being mean, but they look at how long this rebuild's going to be, and they lost their 2, young players they can play with. So I think the writing's just on the wall, and Chicago decided that if we're going to do it, let's go all in.
Why was Kirby Dach tradable?
Well, I think one of the issues was they brought him in too early. Yeah. How many times I've been on your show and don't rush prospects. Yeah. Don't put a 19-year-old kid into the NHL. It's not a developmental league. This is a league of men, and you have to he should have played another year in the Western Hockey League, gone to the World Juniors, maybe did at least a half a year in the American League before coming up. And this is what happens when you bring up these kids too soon, and they have difficulties meeting the ceiling of their expectations and their potential. And you end up hurting their overall value. So he was a pick and a coveted player that people wanted, and so they went out and traded him. It's unfortunate because I think if they would have just left him and develop at his own pace instead of pushing him through, I think things would have been, the fortunes of Chicago would be much different right now.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, one more, and a lot of people will point to Craig Ramsey, who, of course, works with that national team program, but Slovaks go 1-2 at the NHL draft. What is that country doing right when it comes to the game of hockey?
Well, they spent a lot of money and resources over the last 5 years, and when I went there for the under-18 tournament, they were beginning to implement different strategies and adding resources and skills coaches and different coaching to bring that country back to prominence. I think it's great. I want to see the Slovakian nation be a powerhouse in hockey again. I want to see the Czechia be a very competitive team again. It's great for hockey. So for me, I'm really excited for the people in Slovakia and their federation. And look, Craig Ramsey, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best coaches out there. I think he's completely underrated. And there's been a lot of successful NHL players who've had him as an assistant coach and have helped them develop into really good NHL players. So a lot of credit to Craig Ramsey as well.
Shane, above and beyond, as always, from the draft floor in Montreal. Thank you so much, my friend.
All right, gentlemen. Have a great day.